Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. I do have one quick favor before we get to the video that you came here for, and that is very simply this. You see that little red subscribe button below this video? Go ahead, smash that subscribe button. It really does help me. It really does help this channel grow and my audience grow. So go ahead and hit that red subscribe button. And now, here is the video that you came here for. All right, so let's get into the topic of the day. I think you can argue maybe in all of sports. And it's interesting, and I mentioned this off the top, but it's worth reiterating, is this is actually a fun time of year for me to do the show. Because when I do a show like this, basically from about mid-August until the end of April, you kind of know what you're talking about every time you line up to do a show. You're going to talk about college football in the fall, college hoops in February and March. You're going to talk about the NFL draft. You're going to talk about transfer portal. You're going to talk about coaching carousel. But once you get to early May, mid-May, June, July, you get to kind of expand your horizons, expand your palette, do some things that you normally wouldn't do. And so today, I want to talk about a topic that I could have never imagined that I would be talking about when the college hoops season ended back in early April. Like if you had asked me in early April, hey, Torres, college basketball just ended. Baylor beats Gonzaga. What do you think you'll be talking about 5 weeks from now? The backup tight end for the Jacksonville Jaguars would not have been at the top of my mind in terms of what's going to be a mid-May topic. Not going to lie, kind of the truth. Wasn't expecting it. But here we are as it is the middle of May, and arguably the biggest story in sports as we speak is the fact that Tim Tebow, college football icon, is going to be at the very least, considered for a spot on the Jacksonville Jaguars roster. He signed a one-year contract this week. It's non-guaranteed, and it's worth noting what I just said. Non-guaranteed, one-year contract. Doesn't mean he's going to be a starter day one. Doesn't mean he's going to definitively even make the team. He's not sharing bunk beds with Trevor Lawrence in an apartment a mile from the stadium. It just means that this man is getting a roster spot. And so when I saw the news, like it wasn't all that interesting to me for the exact reason I just said. Non-guaranteed, one-year contract. He could be selling insurance, working for the SEC network come September 1. But then I saw the outrage on social media, and I saw how mad people were getting. The idea that Tim Tebow, oh my goodness, this college football icon, who is a former first-round pick, is getting a shot to play in the NFL again. And so when I saw the outrage, I felt like I had to talk about it. Because it isn't that often that a reaction to a topic truly surprises me. No matter what it is, NBA, NFL, Major League, like I kind of know what people are going to say when things happen, when stories come across my Twitter timeline, my social media timeline, whatever. But the reaction of Tim Tebow getting a shot with the Jacksonville Jaguars is insane. As people are saying it's unfair, he doesn't deserve it, he's never played the position. This is basically the equivalent of a make-a-wish. He gets to do whatever he wants, play whatever sport he wants. And so let's get into the Tim Tebow stuff. First of all, let me reiterate what I said a minute ago. We have to remember, non-guaranteed, one-year contract. Didn't sign a 5-year deal. It's not worth $30 million. He's not the, he doesn't have a guaranteed spot in the front office when he retires. Like, this is a 1-year contract that is pretty standard across the board for free agents looking for a shot in the NFL. And it's worth noting that, like, there are some legitimate reasons to think that, like, in theory, he could make the team. Do I think he'll make the team? No. But is it inconceivable to me that he could earn a roster spot on the Jacksonville Jaguars? It's not. First off, he's only 33 years old. People are treating him like he's 50 years old, been retired from the NFL for 2 decades, and this is like, Mike Tyson coming back into the ring for an exhibition in his mid-50s when everyone knows that his best days are 2 decades behind him. Tim Tebow's 33 years old. There are guys from his original draft class who are still playing in the NFL to this day. Joe Hayden, his former teammate at Florida, still in the NFL. Jason Pierre-Paul, Tyson Alualu. Like there are players that were not only in his draft class but are playing at a high level. Let's also not forget, whatever you think about the baseball experiment, he has been training as a professional athlete all along. So it's inconceivable that a guy like Antonio Gates or Rico Gathers or somebody who's been playing basketball their whole lives, has never even played football, they can step into the NFL, they can be a tight end right away. But Tim Tebow, who played football his whole life, he couldn't possibly be an NFL starting caliber quarterback or NFL starting caliber tight end? Give me a break. Especially when you consider that it was only like 6 or 7 years ago that we all kind of agreed exactly what I just said. hey, Tim Tebow might not be a great quarterback, but man, if he just committed to playing the H-back, to being a blocker, to being a tight end, he could make it in the NFL. So 4 or 5 years ago, it was perfectly conceivable that Tim Tebow could be a starting tight end. But now it is insane and impossible and unbelievable. Give me a break. But on top of that, I will readily admit, I can see the other side. I can see the argument that there are a lot of guys who were probably tight ends in the league last year, who were probably all-conference, maybe all-American in college, that are out of the NFL right now that do not have a roster spot, that are more probably capable of stepping in tomorrow and being an NFL caliber tight end than Tim Tebow. I will not deny that. But here's my question for you. Since when does every roster spot in professional sports always go to the best, most qualified, most talented player? Because you might think it does, but in reality, there's actually a lot of other variables into why guys get roster spots and why guys get chances. Guys in the NFL get cut all the time because they're making too much money. Not because they're the worst running back or wide receiver or corner or safety in the league, but because they just make too much money. On top of that, there's the draft process. You go in the first round, you're going to get a shot whether you're ready or not. I don't know if Zach Wilson is one of the 32 best quarterbacks on the planet right now, but I know he is going to be one of 32 starters, knock on wood, assuming nothing happens in training camp where he's injured. He is going to play whether he is ready or not, whether he is really one of the 32 best starting quarterbacks or not. It's the same in the NBA. Why do all these guys want to get into the first round of the NBA draft when they leave college? It's because they know if you're a first-round pick, it's a 4-year guaranteed contract. The organization is kind of stuck with you. They got to try to figure out a way to make it work. The difference between being the 30th pick and the 31st pick in the NBA is monumental because it means that much more of a commitment in the NBA. On the flip side, I'll give you an example. I use this example all the time. But Fred VanVleet, who is now one of the best guards in the NBA, he made the last roster spot for the Toronto Raptors, 60th overall pick. And the only reason was because they had one roster spot open. If they had one extra first-round pick that year or one extra first-round pick the year before, he probably doesn't make that team, even though he has clearly proven himself to be one of the best guards in the NBA. He almost never got that shot because, again, there was somebody with a guaranteed contract ahead of him who was going to get that spot. So stop selling me that the best person always gets the spot. By the way, and what I'm going to say next is going to offend some of you. I'm sorry, but I truly believe it, so you're going to have to deal with it. How is this situation all that different from the Sarah Fuller situation at Vanderbilt? Remember Sarah Fuller, female soccer player, female kicker, brought onto the team? For the record, never talked about it on this show because I never had a problem. Didn't care. I thought it was kind of a cool story, to be honest. I thought it was great inspiration for young girls. Chase your dreams. If you want to do something out of, that's not normal, to still go for it. I thought it was a cool story. But by the end, it was clear she wasn't the best person for the spot on that team. They didn't let her kick field goals. They didn't let her kick normal kickoffs. They had her squib kicking, and then there was another kicker that did all the other stuff. Sarah Fuller was not the most qualified person for that spot, but she got a spot. And again, I had no problem with it because, again, to me, I understand that in sports, the best person does not always get the spot. And so I find it interesting that the internet was, oh my God, Sarah Fuller, this incredible story. But Tim Tebow is like this awful, terrible human being because he gets a shot, even though he probably isn't one of the 64 best tight ends walking the planet. Give me a break. It's the exact same thing. And by the way, you can love me, you can hate me, but the one thing you guys know about me, I'm consistent. I don't flip-flop based on, what social media is saying or what's cool. I had no problem with Sarah Fuller because I thought it was a cool story, but I don't think anybody really thought she was the most qualified kicker on Vanderbilt's campus at that time. And I don't have a problem with Tim Tebow either. And finally, I would say, let's be honest, most of us are adults that listen to this show. Maybe not all of you, but there's a lot of adults that listen to this show. We've all worked in offices. We've all worked for companies. And what happens when a company changes leadership? Most of us have been there. What is the first thing they do? They bring in their people. I have seen it time and time and time again in my own corporate experiences. I'm in my mid-30s. I've worked for a lot of companies. I see how it happens. New person takes over, new boss takes over. They want to bring in people they're comfortable with, people that are comfortable with them, people that know the culture that they want to build and establish. It's no different at a Fortune 500 company, at a media company that I've worked for, or Urban Meyer in the NFL. Urban Meyer wants to bring in people that are going to establish the culture in Jacksonville. He knows Tim Tebow is going to come in. He knows he's going to work. He knows he's going to stay out of trouble. He knows he loves football. He knows he's going to give it his all, whether he is good enough or not. And he knows he'll be a good mentor for Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence has arguably more pressure on him than any quarterback entering the league in many, many, many years. You know who else felt pressure when they walked in the league? Tim Tebow. You know who else was a decorated college football player? Tim Tebow. And so the idea that Urban Meyer is, oh my goodness, he's going to bring in his guy to show Trevor Lawrence the ropes, that happens in every business, in every walk in America. Now, is it going to work? I don't know. Could Urban Meyer potentially lose the locker room if the backup tight end is trying to give the pregame speech instead of the head coach or the starting quarterback? That is definitely a possibility. I'm not saying it is going to work perfectly. I'm not even saying it's going to work at all. Like I said, Tim Tebow could be cut and working for the SEC network by the time the college football season starts. But this idea that it is so inconceivable and so unfair and, oh my good, how could he I just don't buy it. I just don't buy it. The best person doesn't always get the spot. People come in, change cultures all the time, and I have no problem at all with Urban Meyer saying, you know what, at least I know what I'm going to get from this guy. We're going to give it a shot. And oh, by the way, if he's not that good, you know what happens? We're just going to cut him like hundreds of players get cut across the NFL every year.